Thank you. Okay. So we have a 4-degree curve, okay, and designed for 2-lane highway and so on. Okay. So in this example, we are required to calculate the stations of the spiral curves. Okay, the beginning and the end stations of the spiral curve. But to do that, we must know the design of the uh, horizontal curve. Okay, now for the design of the horizontal curve, degree of the curve is already given. Okay, so I asked you guys to calculate the radius and the length of super elevation runoff and the tangent runout. Okay, so radius, you already have the degree of the curve. Okay, so it is, I think, 572 something upon the degree of the curve. Okay, radius is 572 something upon the degree of the curve. So degree of the curve is already given, you can calculate it using that. Okay, then the next thing is LT and LR, and we already have the equations for LT and LR. There is an equation for LT. So normal cross slope is given, super elevation is given, LR will come from this equation. Okay, so width of lane is 12 feet, number of lanes rotated, it's a 2-lane cross section, so you will only rotate 1 lane. And then we have design super elevation, which is given, okay, 6%. BW for 1 lane rotated is 1 lane. Okay, so we have 2-lane cross section, we will rotate 1 lane, outside lanes. Okay, I told you number of lanes rotated are basically a number of outside lanes. So a 2-lane highway, number of lanes rotated will be 1, outside lanes will be 1. So BW will be 1, and delta will come from this table for a speed of 60 miles per hour. So give me the value of radius and LT and LR. Okay, value for radius, LT and LR. I asked you to do it at home.
Radius 1432139.
Okay.
LT 40, LR 240.
Okay, LT, LR, Bilkis, you're correct, but radius is not correct. Okay, radius is 1432.39 or 1432.3, so sorry, 1432.4 feet. Let me put it here so we can use it. Radius is 1432.4 feet and LT 40 feet, LR 240 feet. Okay. Now let me explain the geometry again. Okay, I explained it on the previous lecture as well, but I'll do it. Okay, so TS, we are required to calculate the station of these points: TS, SC, CS, and ST. Okay, TS means tangent to spiral. Tangent to spiral. So this is the start of the spiral curve. Okay, then SC means spiral to curve. So this is the end of a spiral. Okay, so between TS and SC, this is the start point, this is the end point, we have the length of the spiral curve. Okay, then we have the circular curve. So SC, spiral to curve, then CS means curve to spiral again. So this is the beginning of the second spiral. Okay, the spiral must be at the end and at the beginning as well as at the end of the circular curve. So this is the spiral at the end of the circular curve. So this is CS, which is from curve to spiral. So you are going from end of the circular curve to the beginning of the second spiral. Okay, so between SC and CS we have the length of the circular curve, and then from CS to ST we have so ST is spiral to tangent. So this is the end of the second spiral. Okay, end of the second spiral. So CS is the beginning and ST is the end. So between them I again have LSP, the length of the spiral curve. Okay, so I need to calculate TS. In the question they have given me PI, station PI, and the delta of PI. Okay, delta made at PI, the angle. Okay, so station at PI is given. So I will start my calculations by calculating the first point from PI. From PI, TS, the first point of the spiral, is at a distance of TS, tangent length. Okay, tangent length. For calculate tangent length, again I will not use the equation of the circular curve because this is a circular plus a spiral curve. So tangent length cannot be calculated from the equation of the circular curve. Okay, so I will use this equation now. This equation, and this equation I have R. I already know R. You guys have calculated. I need delta. You already have delta, which is given in the question, 38 degrees. Now I need a small delta as well, which I don't have. Okay. Now if I go to the equation of small delta, then I need d, which is the degree of the curve given, and I need LSP as well. LSP. Okay, length of the spiral curve, which I haven't calculated yet. Okay, so I need to calculate first of all LSP. First of all, I have to calculate LSP. For LSP, I have three equations. Okay, two for the minimum and one for the maximum. Two for the minimum, one for the maximum. Okay, let us proceed. Okay, with the calculation of the length of the spiral curve. So give me the value of the spiral curve using each of these three equations. Okay, I will write down the values here for you. So radius is 1432.4. Okay, and everything is in feet. Okay, everything is in feet, and speed is given 60 miles per hour. Okay, give me the values. I think this equation and this equation, easier to calculate. Almost the same. So give me these two values, and then you can give me the middle value as well.
The first LSP is 150.63.
150.63. Okay, and this one, because it's the same, almost the same equation, I think you calculate this one a bit faster. This one, how much?
$118.75.
118, sure? Or you are talking about this one? This one. Okay.
Yes.
118.5. Okay, and this one, the last one.
$336.
Yes.
336.8. Okay, now then there were some guidelines given. Okay, and we said whatever value comes between the minimum and maximum. Okay, first of all, which will be my minimum spiral length? They are saying out of these two equations, take the lesser value. Take the lesser value. So lesser value is this one. So this is my minimum spiral length. Okay, and maximum is this one. Okay, so any value from this range can be taken. Any value from this range can be taken. Okay, 118.5 to 336.8. Any value from the range is given, is possible. Okay, but then we have some other criteria as well. Okay, some other guidelines you can say. The guideline is you can take the value from the table, which is like an average value. Okay, if it is between the range. So you can see from the table it is 60 for 60 miles per hour, 176. 176. Okay, now 176 is in the range. You can take it, but then you are ignoring the transition of the slope elevation. Okay, so a more logical way of establishing the length of the spiral curve is to take into account the transition of the slope elevation, because this is supposed to happen on the spiral curve. I told you last time the transition of the slope elevation is supposed to happen on the spiral curve. So better approach is either make length of a spiral curve equal to LR, or make it equal to LR plus LT. Make length of a spiral curve equal to LR or LR plus LT. Okay, both approaches are correct if they are giving the value in the range. Okay, now your LR is 240 feet. Okay, and LT is 40. So if you add them 240 plus 40 gives you 280 feet. Okay, so 240, if I put LSP equals to LR, 240 is in the range, no problem. If I put LSP equals to 280, which is LR plus LT, so elevation runoff plus tangent runout, this is also in the range. So 280 and 240 both are possible. Okay, so alhamdulillah, in this case the value from the table in the range, value of LR in the range, value of LR plus LT in the range. Okay, all values are in the range. Okay, so all 4 values are possible, but I have obviously I need to pick one value, right? I need to pick one value. The most suitable value, the most preferred value, or the most preferred approach is put length of spiral curve equal to LR. This is the most preferred approach, but like I said, any value which is in the range is allowed. So if somebody comes and says I will put LR equals to I will put LSP equals to LR plus LT, this is also allowed. Okay, this is not wrong. He will not be wrong. Okay, but obviously we have to pick one value. So the most preferred approach is put LR equals to LSP. Okay, so my LR is 240 feet. So I will put LSP as 240 feet. So now I have decided my LSP will be 240 feet. Okay, so LSP is decided 240 feet. Okay, now give me the value of delta here. So D is the degree of the curve. Okay, capital D is the degree of the curve, which is given as 4 degrees. 4 degrees.
4.8.
4.8. Okay, fine. 4.8 degrees. Now calculate the tangent length. Now you have everything. Radius already calculated. Small delta just calculated. Capital delta 38. Capital delta is 38. Just keep in mind how they are using the brackets. Okay, so this complete thing is in one bracket. Then we have another square bracket in which first of all calculate this, then multiply this whole thing with tangent delta by 2, then plus the last item. Okay, in the previous class people were confusing the brackets, so they were having different answers.
Um, 610.6.
600.
610.6.
10.6. Okay, which is almost the one which others got. Okay, there may be some minor changes because maybe rounding off or something. Okay, because the other section told me very slight difference in the value. Okay, so no problem. Okay, no problem. So we have the tangent length. Okay, so our purpose was to calculate TS, this TS, okay, by doing PI minus tangent length. Okay, so I need to do PI minus tangent length. Okay, so I will do it here. So TS, now PI is given. Okay, PI station is given, which is this one, 1100 plus 62. Okay, and we already know this will be 1162, right? This will be 1162 in terms of distance. Okay, so I will directly do it. Okay, in terms of distance, so 1162 minus 610.6. How much?
Oh, 0.6.
551.4.
Yes.
So I will write it as 500. plus 51.4. Okay. Now, the second one is this station SC, and between them we have LSP. Okay, this is the start of the spiral curve, this is the end of the spiral curve. So in this station of TS, I will add LSP, which you have taken as 240 feet, right? Just write LSP here. Okay, so give me SC.
It's 100 plus 91.4.
Sorry, say it again.
700 plus 91.4.
Okay. Okay, so this is 91.4. Okay. Then from SC to CS, I have the length of the circular curve. Okay, length of circular curve is calculated from this equation. Okay, we already have used the equation earlier. Okay, so this is the length of the circular curve. Okay, so here you can see I need delta. Okay, now delta will be the angle of the circular curve, not the total delta. Okay, this delta will be the angle of the circular curve, not the total delta. If there was no spiral curve, then this will become the total delta. But if there's a spiral curve, then you have to subtract the small delta which you have calculated 4.8 from both the ends. Okay, so obviously the equation is given. I'll just show you. Okay, so this is the delta of the circular curve then. Okay, with the spiral curve, the delta of the circular curve will be equal to this much. Okay, so you take total delta, which is 38, minus 2 times the small delta which you gave me as 4.8 degrees, right? So delta minus 2 times 4.8 will give you the delta for the circular curve. Okay, so in the previous section we already did that, and the value is written here, so there's no point in asking you to calculate it. This is the total delta, and this is 2 times the small delta which you calculated for the spiral curve. Okay, so the resulting angle is 28.4 degrees. Give me the length here. How much is the length?
$710.
710. Okay, I will directly write it here. So in SC you will add 710. Okay, to get CS. Okay, and I will write CS here. Okay, there's more space here. Okay, so this value will come here. Okay, tell me the value. This last number is 91.4. Okay, keep it in mind.
Oh, 1,500 plus 14.
1,500 plus how much?
1.4.
Okay, then from CS to ST we have the length of the spiral curve between them. CS to ST is length of the spiral curve between them, so you will add LSP again. It will give you ST. So give me the value of ST here.
$1,700 plus 41.4.
Okay, any questions? So we started with the calculation of length of the spiral curve. We calculate the minimum and the maximum range, and then within the range, I said you can take the value from the table or make it equal to LR or make it equal to LR plus LT. In our case, all these three values were in the range. So I went on with the most preferred approach, which is putting LSP equal to LR. Okay, so LR was 240 feet, so it became LSP. Then I calculated the delta for the spiral curve, and I calculated the tangent length, and then point of intersection minus tangent length will give you the starting point, then plus length of the spiral curve, which will give you the end point of the spiral curve, then plus length of the circular curve will give you the length end of the circular curve, then plus the length of the spiral curve will give you the end of the second spiral curve. So this was TS tangent to spiral, SC spiral to curve, then CS curve to spiral, then ST spiral to tangent. Okay. Moving on to the criteria of stopping side distance or criteria of side distance. We said side distance is a safety requirement, and it must be provided on all points of the highways, including the horizontal curves. Now, the minimum criteria is that the side distance available to the driver should be equal to the required stopping side distance. The total stopping distance must be provided as minimum visibility on the highways, including the horizontal curves as well. So if you see anything on the curve ahead of you, you should have enough distance to stop before getting into a crash or before bumping into that object. You should have that much distance in front of you so that when you see the object, you can stop safely. Now, the problem with the horizontal curves is that the line of sight of the driver is often obstructed by the object on the side of the road. The line of sight of the driver is often obstructed by the object on the side of the road. So if I am this driver, if I'm driving here, okay, so you can see if I want to see what object I have on this part of the road, then I have the tree in front of me. So the tree is blocking my line of sight. I cannot see the other side of the curve until I clear the curve itself. Okay, and this is because of the curvature. If the road was straight, if I was here on a straight road, then I can see this much distance, no effect of the object on the side of the road. Whether the tree is here or here or here, doesn't matter. Okay, but when I go on the curve, this object is blocking my line of sight. Okay, so these objects can be trees or buildings or natural barriers like mountains or something, and they block your line of sight. Now this is the sketch which we will try to understand to drive the equation for the side distance on the horizontal curve. So this is the picture I have taken, or the sketch I have taken from the highway engineering textbook. Okay, so you must be familiar with it. This is my position. This is the position of the object. This is my line of sight, a straight line. And this is the distance on the curve to which you can see. So your side distance. Okay, so side distance is the distance on the curve to which you can see. The side distance, it should be equal to, like I said, the minimum stopping distance, and your line of sight is looking at the point like this. Okay, now this is the obstruction which is blocking your line of sight. The obstruction which is blocking your line of sight, and this is the radius of the curve. Now, since your line is like a chord between these 2 points, it's like a chord, a straight line of sight. It's like a chord. You are joining one point of the curve with the other point of the curve with your line of sight as a straight line. So this becomes a chord, and the distance is along the curve. Okay, so the distance between the curve and the chord, we termed it as middle ordinate, M. Okay, and the benefit of saying it, this is M, is that for M we already have the equation from the curve geometry. So we already know how to calculate M. Okay, now this M you can see is the distance from the roadside obstruction, because my line of sight will see till the roadside obstruction is allowing me to see. So this M is the distance from the curve to the roadside obstruction. Okay, so you can see if the road obstruction was here, so M will be shorter and my line of sight will be blocked. Okay, and if M is longer, so the object will be here and my line of sight can see more distance along the curve. This S will be till this point then. Okay, so S and M are directly proportional to each other. If M increases, S will also increase. Okay, so if you move the object away from the curve, you will have more sight distance. Now M is also termed as horizontal sight line offset by H2. H2 says that this can be also termed as horizontal sight line offset. Okay, so this is nothing but M to the roadside obstruction. Okay. Now this is the equation for M. Okay, we already have it from the curve geometry. Okay, this is the equation for the length of the curve. Now we are saying the length of the curve should be equal to ds. What is ds? Distance of your sight. Okay, sight distance. Okay, sight distance. Now you would say they are using ds and they are calling it sight distance. Why not call it sd? Okay, I agree with you, but I will not change the terminology. I will use the same as they have used in the book. Okay, so ds means sight distance, or you can, if you want to feel comfortable, you can say distance to your sight line. Okay, so L should be equal to the required sight distance, and this is the equation for L. Length of the curve has this equation. We already used it in the previous example. Okay, so if L equals to sight distance, then delta must be equal to this. Okay, so if you want to have length of the curve equal to your sight distance, then delta of the curve should be equal to this much. Okay, now this delta will be put in the equation of M. I will take the value of delta ds into d upon 100. I will put in the equation of M. There's 2 already there, so 2 into 100 will make it 200. Okay, so this is the final equation for M. Now in this equation, the only thing is you have R and you have D both, and we already know R and D are related to each other. So why should we have both? We can replace one parameter with the other. You can replace R with D, or you can replace D with R. We already have the equation which is for both of them. So this equation, the first one, is when we replace R with D. Okay, so R equals to 5729 upon 28 upon D. Okay, so you can see now this is the equation for M without R. Okay, so we only have D and ds here. Okay, or you can replace D from here by the same ratio. So D will become equal to 5729.28 upon R, and there's 200 already there. For 5729.28 upon 200 will give you 28.65. Okay, so this is the equation for M. Okay, and the only difference between these two equations is this: the first one doesn't have R, the second one doesn't have D. Okay, we replaced one with the other. Okay, but both equations are true, both equations are good. Even this one is also good. If you want to use R and D both, fine, use it, no problem. Okay, now for calculating ds, okay, now ds is the sight distance, right? So we have studied in the previous chapter, we have passing sight distance, we have stopping sight distance, we have distance sight distance. So ds can be replaced with any sight distance you want to provide on the curve. You want to provide passing sight distance, ds will become passing sight distance, and so on. But generally, the minimum criteria is ds should be equal to stopping sight distance. This is the minimum criteria. Okay, so this is the equation for stopping distance. Okay, stopping sight distance. S is the speed, T is the direction time, and this is the coefficient of friction, and G is the gradient. Okay, so it can be any, it can be this value, ds can be this value, or any other type of sight distance which you feel appropriate for this site. Okay, now let us look at an example. We have a 60-degree curve which is measured at the center line of the inside lane. Now, if you go back here, see there are a number of lanes here. Okay, now this lane is closer to the object, and this lane is far from the object. Okay, comparatively far from the object, further from the object. Okay, so this lane is more critical than the other one. Okay, because of two reasons. First reason is it is closer to the object, so the object is has more effect on the line of sight, and secondly, the inside curve will be sharper as compared to the outside curve, right? Outside lane will have a bigger curve, more radius. Okay, so with bigger radius, obviously you have more sight distance, and the driving is easier. With a sharper radius, driving is more critical, it is more dangerous. So sight distance is always checked for the inside lane. Sight distance is always checked for the inside lane. So we always for the calculations for side distance are done for the inside lane, and everything is measured from the center line of the inside lane, not the road. Okay, so center line of the inside lane. So this is what they are saying here, that the inside lane has a curve, and that curve is 6 degrees. Okay, and the center line of the inside lane has a curve of 6 degrees. The speed is 70 miles per hour. The gradient is level, so no gradient. Driver reaction times 2.5 seconds, which is the AASHTO for normal braking. AASHTO is standard for normal braking. We want to know, we want to place any roadside object closer to the highway. So how much close to the highway we can be. Okay, meaning how much closer to the center line of the inside lane we can be. Okay, because this is our main lane, this is our critical case, the inside lane. So how far should be any roadside object from the center line of the inside lane. Okay. Okay. So I will go to the, where I'm going, confused. Okay. So we need to find out M. Okay. Now you can use, we can use this equation because degree of the curve is given. Okay. So we'll use this equation. Now in this equation we have D, 6 degrees given. We need DS. We need DS. For the DS we will use this equation. Okay. Now speed is given as 70. Okay. Perception reaction time 2.5 seconds. Okay. And level means 0. Okay. Gradient is 0. Okay. How much is DS? Yes, DS.
It's 726.6.
726.6. Okay, then you can calculate M now directly, like I said. Use capital D as 6 degrees. Okay, so use this equation. Yeah, the M value.
It's 68.27.
68.27. Okay, so any object from the road should be at least 68.3 feet away from the inside lane, the center of the center line of the inside lane. Okay, again this is minimum value. If you want to go at 70 feet, 100 feet, 200 feet, no problem. Okay, but it should be at least this much. Okay, again from the center line, you calculate this from the center line of the inside lane. Okay, so obviously if it is 68.3 feet from the inside lane, then it has more distance from the other lanes, right? So other lanes, like I said, are not so critical. Okay, then we will discuss two other types of curves, which is compound horizontal curves. Compound horizontal curves, you are giving 2 or more curves together. Okay, you are connecting 2 or more curves with each other. Okay, so you can see it in the picture here. This is the first curve, this is the second curve, this is the third curve. You can see the 3 radius here as well. Why should we provide compound curves? Compound curves are provided where you are limited by the physical conditions of the site. Compound curves usually require less space as compared to simple circular curves. Okay, so for example, you can see here, you covered so much curvature in a very short distance. Okay, if you replace this with a circular curve, then you cannot cover so much curvature between these 2 points. Maybe you will end up here. Okay, so circular curves need more space as compared to compound curves. So wherever we have to provide a sharper change in direction with less space, we go for compound curves. Now there are some guidelines given for the design of the compound curves. The first guideline is that the ratio of the larger radius to the smaller radius should not be more than 1.5 times. The ratio of the larger radius to the smaller radius should not be more than 1.5 times. Okay, so for example, let's say R1 is the larger radius and R2 is the shorter radius. Okay, so if R1 is 1000, okay, then R2 should not be less than 1000 upon 1.5, which is how much? 1000 upon 1.5 is how much? Yes, 1000 upon 1.5. What happened? Is this so difficult to do 1000 upon 1.5?
1500?
No, 1000 upon 1.5. I said R1 is the larger radius. R1 is the larger radius, right? Now you are calculating a smaller radius, so you will do R1 upon 1000. If I gave you a smaller radius and ask you to calculate larger radius, then you will do multiply, right? I'm saying R1 is larger, R2 is smaller. Then R2 should be
666.
666. Okay. So now R2 should be 666 or more than that. Okay, because if it is less than 666, then it's a devil's number, right? No. If it is less than 666, then the ratio will be more than 1.5. Okay, which is not allowed. Okay, so R2 should be more than 1000, more than 666, or R1 can be less than 1000 as well. You will achieve the same thing. Okay, if R1 is less than 1000, you will still make the ratio, right? The ratio should be, so the ratio of larger to smaller radius should be 1.5 or less. Okay, larger to smaller radius should be 1.5 or less. Or the difference between the degree of the curve should not be more than 5 degrees. The difference of degree of the curve should not be more than 5 degrees. So if this curve, for example, if this curve has a degree of the curve equal to 10, then this should be 5 or more. This one should be 5 or more. If this curve has a radius, a degree of the curve of 10, then this one should be at least 5. Because if it is less than 5, then the difference will be more than 5 degrees. Okay, so these are the two guidelines given: one for the radius, one for the degree of the curve. Okay, compound curve. Like I said, sometimes you provide compound curve because you don't have the space to provide a simple circular curve. But sometimes compound curve become mandatory or become necessary because the field conditions are like this. So whenever you have two curves, so for example, your road was going like this, then you have a turning like this, and you have a turning like this. Okay, so you need a curve here, 2 tangents, and you need a curve here as well, right? 2 tangents. Okay, now if the length between these two curves is 200 feet, okay, or less, 200 feet or less than that, then you should make them into a compound curve. Okay, if the difference between two consecutive curves which are in the same direction is 200 feet or less, then you should combine them into a compound curve. Okay, don't design two circular curves separately. Combine them. It will be more beneficial for the design. It will save you space. It will be easier for the driver, and so on and so forth. So compound curve can be because you have limited space, or sometimes coincidentally two curves happen to be very close to each other. Okay, so you join them together as a compound curve. Okay. Compound design of the compound curves will happen in the same manner as a circular curve, but instead of designing one curve, now you are designing a series of curves. So you will do one calculation, then the other one, then the other one, and so on and so forth. Okay. If you are giving compound curve for a ramp, now you can see normally if you see a ramp from a plan view, you go to Google and look for any ramp from the bridge to the road, from the bridge to the ground. You will see the ramp is having this sort of a curvature. All the ramps, I think, which are for left turns, okay, or for U-turns, they are in this shape. Okay, you can Google it. Go to Google Map and look for bridges, the points on the bridges where they have ramps. You will see this shape very often, very common. Okay, even the pictures which I showed you in the highway engineering course for the ramps, I think most of them, if not all of them, were in this shape. So compound curves are very often employed for designing of the ramps as well. And in that case, ramps usually have sharper radius. So even if you are not fulfilling some of these conditions, you can still go on with the design. Okay, then we have the last one, which is a reverse curve, reverse horizontal curves. So you have two curves which are in different directions. Okay, and between them the length, so they are very close to each other. Okay, they are very close to each other. Now it is your responsibility. Now reverse horizontal curve, this type of a curve is considered very dangerous. So you will design them according to this book. They are saying design them as two circular curves and make sure the tangent length between them is at least 200 feet. So compound curve, they said, if it is less than 200 feet, join them together. Here they are saying separate them by force. Okay. If you are having two circular curves, which are in different directions like this, separate them by force to make sure their length between them is at least 200 feet. Okay, or more than 200 feet, not less. Okay. Secondly, since reverse horizontal curves are dangerous, they must be provided with spiral transition curves. I told you last week that spiral transition curves are not provided in all cases for joining the circular curve with the tangent because of the construction cost, which is higher for the spiral curve, and because of the complexity in laying out the curve as well. So we avoid it wherever we can, but in terms of reverse curves, you cannot avoid them. In terms of reverse curves, you must provide them and make sure the distance between the two curves of the opposite directions is 200 feet or more. Okay, and again, the calculations for these curves will be same as circular curve because these are two circular curves. Okay, and now the distance between them is also there, so they are not joined together. Okay, so there should not be any problem in doing the calculation separately. If you want to see some detailed calculation for compound curve and reverse curve, we did a couple of examples in the highway engineering course. You can go back and have a look at it. Okay, so this is where I will stop because I was, slow with the other section. Even with you, 12:48. Not so soon. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, I will go for the attendance. Any questions? Okay, Hissa Ahmad Ali Khalil and Qusay is here. Okay, fine. Hissa Ahmad and Ali Khalil.